cool. Well, maybe you can give me some coaching here on the spot for my 6-year-old. Because if you would have asked me right when we got on this call, how you doing with your son? I'd be like, fine, we're fine. Because I was about to rip his throat out before we got on this podcast. So, 6 years old seems to be the age, and maybe this just never ends, where it's like there's some stuff that he pushes back against that I know he loves doing, right? So it's like you get out of school at 3:30, you're rushing home. We're going to get changed. We're going to go to the 4 p.m. Jiu-Jitsu class. And it's like, Dad, I don't want to go to Jiu-Jitsu. I'm like, yeah, you say that, but the moment you get there, you love it. You're on the mat. You're having a great time. Even when you get embarrassed, because, at this age, men and women are about the same physicality. When some girl absolutely whoops his ass and he gets a little embarrassed, and he doesn't want to go back the next day. So I'm struggling with this balance of put your fucking clothes on, you're going to jiu-jitsu, and it's going to be a fight, versus like, all right, cool, you want to quit? Quit. It's your life. I'm not going to tell you what to do 24/7. If you want to go play in the backyard instead of go to jiu-jitsu, don't go to jiu-jitsu, but I'm promising you, son, you're going to be disappointed in a couple years when everybody has surpassed you in that field. So there's this tension right now, and it only comes up once in a while because most of the time my son's game for anything, right? But it comes up just enough where I'm like, oh, I am failing as a parent here because I'm having a hard time controlling my emotions when my son says, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, I know you want to do that. You just say you don't want to do that, So give me some parenting advice as somebody's a little bit further along the journey.
So, I got a 6-year-old young man as well. And you and I both were 6-year-old young men. So you're not wrong on the pushing of the buttons, right? And that's ingrained in us.
Right.
So since we know that already, one of the things I always talk to parents about is being proactive versus being reactive. You already know there's a potential he's going to be doing that. He's going to push back on you. He's going to say he doesn't want to go. And it's going to push your buttons. And, depending on how tired you are, you might get pissed and be like, God damn, we've already talked about this. Like, let's, that's going to be there. Right.
Totally.
So when it's not a jiu-jitsu day, when it's a weekend, when it's a morning time, when it's whatever, we need to proactively put something around to get in front of that. And so there's a number of things that, that we do as a family, and I always speak from the context of like, look, this works for us. And so modify this for whatever works for your own family. But we do a few different things. One, the studio contract that you see in an Acton Academy. Right. And you've got the young people come together, and we talked about that just briefly, right? And they come together and they build that little constitution that goes, look, this governs who we are and how we're going to be. Those contracts are very values driven, and it allows for tangible conversations later to where I can go, hey, Scott, you signed this contract just like I did. I'm over here doing my core skills and you're coming over here and you're messing with my computer. That is a direct violation of this. So I'm going to ask you to stop. Otherwise, right, it gives them that tangible conversation and they can go back to that morality and those values. I always recommend families doing that at home. Build that core value, build the here's who we are, here's who we're not, like start with those values. And we've got our, 11 rules at home, our Beaudreau's 11 rules. We got it up in the house. Everybody came together to put those together. We all agreed on it. And it allows us to hold each other accountable to those things, which, by the way, isn't just dad can tell you, hey, look at the rules. My 6-year-old son, my 9-year-old daughter, my 11-year-old daughter, they can go, hey, dad, rule number 6, man, is no complaining. Fix it. You kind of sound like you're complaining right now. What's your solution?
Love it.
And then I go, you're right. I do have to find a solution, right? Because then there's a bond built. There's trust built. I'm not hypocritical. It's not the do as I say, not as I do bullshit that doesn't work.
Right.
They know because they're going to do what you do before they do what you say. So if you are leading by character all the time and you're allowing them to hold you to that, that sets a solid foundation, right? And then especially with our young men, so that's one piece of the puzzle, getting that proactively there helps solidify this foundation. And it gives you a little bit of a tangible, like, hey, this is what we do. This is what we don't do. How does jiu-jitsu play into this? You can have that conversation. What do we want to do? What do we want to agree on? And is jiu-jitsu something you want, something I want, something we both want? Because if it's something that just dad wants, but I agree with you that it's crazy valuable, then we make it a trade-off where, there's a lot of, it's popular now for a lot of these educators or faux educators to say external rewards are never okay. That's horseshit too. You and I both work and we get paid for it. There's nothing necessarily wrong with external rewards. You don't want it to be, you want intrinsic motivation,
Right.
but you can use some external rewards sometimes too, right? So for him, it's like, okay, well, if he really is like wavering on it, you're like, okay, cool. This is where you're going to do this for dad. And this is going to be something that we'll put on as a responsibility for you. But if you will take this on as a responsibility, you can earn this freedom. And we have a balance in our house of like, yeah, you've got all the freedoms, all the things you want to do within reason that we say are okay, but you've got all the responsibilities that need to come first. And maybe jiu-jitsu is a responsibility, because it's not, you're not, like you said, he enjoys it while he's there. So maybe that's a responsibility for him that earns him, another freedom of some sort. So, and then the other thing that I always try to do, especially with my young man, is I try to be I do with all three of my kids, but I'm especially with him right now, is I try to be very, very intentional with my emotions, so that I don't ever snap.
Right.
I want to be super intentional that when he hits the mark, he knocks it out of the park on something that we have determined is what the Beaudreaus do, right? These are our family values. And you do this, you exhibit this behavior, I'm going to call him out inspirationally. So example, a couple of weeks ago, walking out into the garden, he starts to go in, he stops, pulls the gate open, and he goes, I'm sorry, ladies first. And he lets his mom go through and he lets his sisters go through, right? I grabbed him and I picked him up and I went, hey man, I just want you to know what you just did right there. That's what good men do. You did that because you are a good man. You have the right heart. You have a servant heart. You are leading the ladies, right? I'm pouring into them all of the things that I think a man should do. And I'm making that inspiration, just going, that is you, man. I love that. That's awesome. Way to go. Put him down and have him run off. Likewise, when he misses the mark, because he will, I need to be intentionally super, super calm on it and just, hey, man, we've got our contract. It's, responsibility comes before what? Freedom. What are you exhibiting right now? Freedom. Did you take care of all your responsibilities? No. What do you need to do? I need to go fix it. Cool, man. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Super chill, super calm, but there's no negotiating. It makes it black and white.
Right.
And so whatever you can do to get in that black and white situation, whether it's based on your contract, whether it's based on the responsibility freedom scale, whatever that looks like, it just starts to change the pattern of how he thinks about that.